Why is this so difficult? Hey, what's up, guys? It's Alex. And a couple days ago, I put out a video about how I switched to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I talked all about the reasons behind it and um, thoughts, right? All of my thoughts. But after putting that video out, it got me thinking and kind of second guessing a lot of those thoughts. And needless to say, I went back and swapped that 15 Pro Max back for a 15 Pro. I know I got issues, but that's why I'm making this video. Maybe you guys can help me out with this a little bit. It's a real struggle. It's a challenge. Not because either of these phones are bad. They are really, really good in their own way. Um, and so that's kind of the issue. Both of them are so good that I just don't know which one to pick, which one is right for me. So I'm going to kind of just talk through and ramble some of my thoughts around it. I'd love to hear your comments on it, see what you guys have to say. I still don't know which way I'm going to go yet because I'm still in my return period. I got the 15 Pro Max Sunday, made it to Friday, traded it in, got this Friday. It's now Monday again. And I've been using it since then, and I'm still like hemming and hawing about it. So here's kind of some thoughts. What's helping me to kind of figure out this whole process is I have the 14 Pro Max right here. And obviously, this is much heavier, a little bit bulkier than the 15 Pro Max was. But it helps me to just kind of pick it up and say, like, okay, I can kind of compare the two side by side. There's things I like about the bigger screen, there's things I don't. There's things I like about this, there's things that I don't. Um, at the end of the day, I think the difference is is compromise, right? More so now than really almost ever before. There's a big difference between the Pro and the Pro Max. When we had the 6S and the 6S Plus release, we had the OIS, optical image stabilization. That differentiated the Pro, like the Plus versus the smaller phone. But now, like for the first time ever, aside from battery life, like we have a 5X camera. We have an entirely new camera lens on the larger phone. Um, that is like pretty awesome. And the battery life is pretty awesome. You know, since switching back to the smaller 15 Pro, I've noticed instantly the battery is not as good. Have to charge it up, which is no big deal. I work here at a desk. I'm either at home, can throw it on a charger, or I'm driving. It's charging plugged into CarPlay anyway. So that's not a huge deal, even though it is nice to not have to worry about. Um, the camera, the 5X camera zoom that I literally, before I traded this in, I actually went to Best Buy and to the Apple store to try them both to say, like, okay, am I nuts? Which one's which? Picked up the cameras. I like zoomed them all the way in. I used 3X on this, 5X on the Pro Max. Took a photo of like some text across the store, and obviously this Pro is not going to be zoomed in as much. In post, I went and zoomed in. They look like the exact same. Depending on your lighting and what you're taking pictures of, the differences are so marginal that at least when I took those test images, I didn't even notice it. Granted, if you're outside and depending on what you're taking pictures of, yes, you're going to see a difference. But for most people, most use cases, especially if it's just going out on social media, the camera is like not that much different. Okay, I figured it out, I think. I'm sitting here editing this again, and I we so this is not a secret that Apple has kind of a pricing ladder, right? They have a pricing tier that's like, oh, you want this phone, you can get it at this price. The next one's marginally better, it's $100 more. Marginally better, $100 more, right? They get you to justify that so that you can go, oh well, I get this, the kind of the lower tier one, but for a little bit more, I can get this. For a little bit more, I can get that. So that's where I'm struggling between this. Is the Pro is like I say, you're compromising just a little bit, and if you spend a little bit more, you get all in. And so I feel like that's the struggle a little bit. It's like I paid full price for an expensive phone that has some compromises, and I could literally return it and get, for a little bit more, are actually the same. This is a 512 gigabyte model. I could trade it in and basically break even on a 256 gig for the Pro Max size. I could break even and then get no compromises. But obviously, like we're going to talk about the rest of the video, there are some compromises that are just inherent when you have differently sized phones. But from a feature standpoint, as far as battery life and cameras, yes, you are compromising. So that's just going to come down to the screen size, you know? And when I had the Pro Max, I was like, it's too big for me to type on, you know? And I can even attest to that now with the 14 Pro. Like, it's big enough that I can reach across, but I'm doing these gymnastics to like reach the top of the screen and I can like swipe and text across. That's no big deal. Two-handed use, absolutely so much better than the 15 Pro, than the regular Pro size. Um, but I can't always use it two-handed. So, you know, I'm texting with one hand depending on what I'm doing, and that's less of a desirable uh, thing. Versus on the Pro, this is so much better one-handed, but I find it so much harder two-handed. And that was kind of what I was getting at in my video the other day, talking about the Pro Max. Is like when I'm going to pick this out to use it, one-handed is no big deal. Like I can do this all day, walking if I have something going on. Like I can one-hand it, easy peasy. Um, the Pro Max is a little bit harder. I have to be more careful to what I'm doing. But two-handed on the Pro, I make so many mistakes typing on this keyboard. I'm just not used to it. And that's something I just never got used to. You know, the Mini, I had the same issue. The Pro, I had the same issue. Pro Max, I just can type on it so much easier. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention as I started to edit here is the width of the phone. I actually really wanted to mention this. Something that I just couldn't get used to when using the Pro Max is the width of it is so wide. Like even this one, like it feels, and obviously the 14 Pro Max is bigger than the 15 Pro Max. It just feels too wide, you know, to be able to use. You pick it up in your hands like this to hold it instead of like this. Like and so when I went to Best Buy and eventually back to Apple, the width of the Pro, the normal Pro, it's like it just feels better. The content on the screen just feels like it fits better. There's not these odd gaps in between all your apps and stuff. Like, just feels good. Pro Max feels a little bit too wide. It's like, it just iOS isn't quite optimized for the larger screen as well as it is for the smaller one because iOS was made for the original iPhone, which was way smaller than this, like half the size. And so when it's blown up on a bigger screen, it just feels a little odd. Like the dimensions feel a little bit odd. You know, I'm almost in like Samsung's camp of like make it this tall, but make it just a little bit narrower, the phone. The phone is just a little bit too wide to be comfortable, where it just feels like you're reaching across a brick. This feels like a candy bar, you know, and so that's where that just the width, the aspect ratio feels a little bit off. And I know it's probably the same, it's just scaled up, but that's just my thought on it that the just too wide. You know, this has got the right amount of width, just not the I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. It's too wide. And I still find myself having to do some gymnastics on this one. You know, obviously like it's smaller. I can reach my hands all the way around and like I showed you in the Pro Max video, I could do that too. So like the difference in size is honestly not that much, but it's just enough to be like noticeable, just enough to make you really think about it, you know? I'm still having to do the hand gymnastics to like reach the top of the screen here. Maybe not as much, but like when I get to my notification center or my control center, right? I still kind of have to throw the phone out of my hand or like do my gymnastics to reach up to the top. Same thing on the Pro Max, right? I still have to like get up there and reach it. Like I'm making the same gestures and the same movements. And I noticed that as soon as I went back to the Pro, I'm like, wait a minute. It's nice because I can reach across and type one-handed, but everything else, top of the screen and otherwise, I'm like, it's the same thing. I still have to like do some gymnastics to reach to the top of the screen. And that's why I wanted to go back to the Mini years ago. And that's why I did use the Mini for so long, is because I didn't have to do that. But obviously, you're compromising on a lot more than just that. You're compromising on battery life, screen size, all of that. I think that ship for me has kind of sailed. I was considering, you know, like maybe I'll just get rid of this thing, go Mini. I'm just not going to do that. I don't think that's smart right now. So I'm really just between this Pro and Pro Max. You know, at this point, I've already paid for both of them. I've just been returning, bouncing back and forth between them, and I don't know what I want to do with it. Um, and it's perplexing. It's a struggle. I What I want to do is keep the phones for the next couple of years. I don't know how realistic that is because of what I do with the channel and everything. It's like I can just trade these in and just get really good value for them or sell them when the next one comes out and I can review it for you here. Um, but I mean, as far as what I need it for, you know, I need it to make calls, make texts, email. be able to use reliably, take great pictures and great video for the channel. I'm not using one obviously right now. I'm using my Sony a7 IV to film this, um, and using so that I can have kind of both these phones free to show you in the video. But that's what I need it for, right? I need it to run a business. I need it to be reliable. I need the battery to last me all day. And right now, the biggest thing that's kind of pushing me back towards thinking that I might want the Pro Max is that battery life, is that 5x camera, because it is marginally better in the smallest way. It's a little bit better, and the camera nerd, the content creator in me says, "Ooh, I like that. I want that." And that's it, and then like I say, the battery life is also a biggie for me as well. Okay, and this is exactly why the Mini appeals to me so much, is because you get all of that basic functionality, the value that an iPhone gives you: call, text, email, social media, communication, does everything, photo, video, at great value. Especially now, it's like you can get a Mini for like 400 or 500 bucks. That's great. No issues. The problem I'm having with this is that when you're spending $1,500 for a phone, which is what this one costs, which is what the Pro Max would cost if I were to return it, why would I compromise? If I know that like I'm 99% of the way there, why would I compromise and hold back from getting the best of the best? So it's like I've spent top dollar, but I haven't gotten top result. And that ultimately is kind of the underlying feel that I get when I use the Pro. Uh, but then switching to the Pro Max, obviously, then having the issues with the ergonomics of it. So, tomato, tomato. So I just don't know what I want to do. To me, this feels like I say, the word feels like compromise. When you have the two of them next to each other, they're so different now than they have been in years past. Using the Pro is great. It's not a bad phone. It's fantastic. I recommended this to friends. One of my buddies was in the market for a phone, recommended the Pro. It was awesome. He came from the SE two, SE3. Um, so this is a huge phone for him, and it's great. It's a fantastic phone depending on what you're used to and what you're looking for. But for me, I'm just like, I don't I don't know. It feels like a compromise. Now that I've used the Pro Max, now that I've had the experience of it for a little while, I'm like, it feels like a compromise because I know that if you just get a marginally bigger phone, a little bit bigger, you can get so much better battery life. You can get a better camera. And then I can type easier on it, right? Like there's just these things that I'm like, I know where the grass is greener and where it's not. And so that's the struggle. And same thing on the Pro Max. When I had the Pro Max, it was like, man, this is great. No compromises. I know that I got the best iPhone out there. The battery is great, cameras are great. No compromises. Honestly, I had no intention of going back to the Pro until, it's like one day I'm just like, you know what? This is like fatiguing. This is tiring. I don't know if I want to deal with this. Let's just switch back to the Pro and see what I think. Well, here I am and thinking that it feels like a compromise to go back to the Pro. And that's my struggle with it. One thing I wanted to mention though was with the a case. I didn't use either of them with a case. I didn't even have these phones long enough to have a case ordered to me. I like to buy Peak Design cases. This is a collaboration between Peak Design and Nomad, and a video that I did. I did a video review on this. They actually sent me this case to do a review on that I did. You can check out on my channel. But one of the reasons why I like it is the Slim Link system, this little square. I actually can use this to help balance the phone. So my finger kind of goes in there and it's like it's not a pop socket, but it's just a little bit of pressure point where it's like I can kind of like keep the phone balanced there. So like I said, I still have Peak Designs cases on order for my 15 Pro Max, and now I have one on order for the 15 Pro. So I'll kind of have both of them in hand to test them out. But when it's on the Pro Max, and obviously this is the 14 Pro, it makes the phone bulkier and bigger. But what it also does is it gives me a little spot to hold on to. Not hold on to, but you know what I mean. Um, as my monitor dies. How do you like my subtle subliminal messaging? Yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, it gives me a little finger hold, where it's like I feel like I can kind of balance it on one or two hands, and I can kind of use that to like pull my finger up. It's hard to explain, but it's just a little like lip, just a tiny little lip that I can put my finger in, and I find myself resting my finger on that all the time to be able to balance it. And especially, like I say, I throw one on the Pro gets bigger. I had one on the Pro, the 15 Pro, just a couple weeks ago, before I traded it up for the Pro Max. I had the Peak Design case on it, and obviously it makes the phone bigger, it makes it bulkier. Honestly, makes it feel just like the 14 Pro, maybe a little bit lighter. Love that case, by the way. I'll do a video review once they come in. Um, but I'm gonna throw a case on it anyway, and I'm gonna use it anyway. So then the 14 Pro automatically becomes bigger, bulkier. It's one-handed for some things, but not for everything. And the Pro Max is like also one-handed for some things, but two-handed so much better. So I don't know. I don't know if I resolved anything in this video other than to say I'm struggling to pick one back and forth, and that's a good thing. We as consumers we have such we have so many options at our disposal. We can honestly pick whatever. And so between these two, I am so struggling between them. I have obviously a 2 week return period. I'm only a few days into this one. I was only a few days into the other one before I swapped it over. Um, yeah, it's one of those like the grass is always greener. I had gotten this one. I thought, oh, well, I'll try the Pro Max. Why not? People say it's the smallest and lightest it's ever been, which is true. Um, give it a shot. Why not? And I loved it. And I was using it for so many days and I didn't think twice about it. It was like, I mean, you saw my video. I'm like, I'm keeping this thing. This is fantastic. It's awesome. Um, and then I'm watching YouTube or I'm doing something, or I'm just like, man, sometimes it feels a little bit heavy or whatever. Like, there were things that pushed me away from it, and there were things that brought me back to it. So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, like I say, it's a tool. I needed to rely on it for what I needed to do. And when I look at it from a nuts and bolts perspective, the Pro Max actually does make more sense for me because it's like I can rely on the battery. The cameras are better. It's a better screen to be able to view what I need to for my business, for my channel. I'm like, that just makes more sense. This is more pocketable. But like I said in the Pro Max video, I don't need a phone to fit in my pocket as easily. I need a phone to rely on every day. Not that I can't rely on this. Absolutely I can. But for what I do, sometimes the battery life is just not there for me. And that's a struggle. So all that to say, that's my life right now. Those are my struggles. Let me know what you guys think. Did you pick up a 15 Pro, Pro Max, or whether you've used the Pro or the Pro Max models in the past? Like, what have kind of been your thoughts? I read forums and I see people make arguments and cases either way for it. I am not a heavy content consumer on my phone. I'm not a gamer on my phone, really. I'm just not. Occasionally, I'll play like Call of Duty Mobile or something, but I'm not sitting there putting in hours on it. Like, I just need it to be. I just need to rely on it. I need to forget that I need to charge it. Like that's all it is. So let me know your thoughts. And I'll let you know kind of eventually what I decide to do. I have some time to figure it out, but I still want to figure it out and not just put it off. I'd rather just return the phone, get all my money back, put it towards a different one. If I can do that yet without having to resell third party and lose some value out of it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll let you know what I decide. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.